Hey guys, welcome back to In the Beat. I am your host Sensho, and today we are gonna go over a step-by-step way of making some cool sounds in Serum. If you haven't really wrapped your head around it or you don't really know what's going on with it, it's a brand new synth to you. If you know how to make your own sounds from the ground up, you will be a very dangerous producer. You're watching In the Beat. The waveform is like the meat and potatoes of your sound, and you can select your waveform by clicking where it says default, which basically gives you a drop-down list underneath the section that says OSCA. And OSC stands for oscillator, which basically creates sound from your MIDI notes using the waveform that you select. So these are organized by different types, but that's not that important. Just start with the analog group for now. And there's a ton of options in here, but start with one that's called basic_WRD. Now just go to the bottom left part of the oscillator section where there's a knob called WT position, which stands for wavetable position. Now when you hold down a MIDI note, just click and drag the knob to the right so you can kind of hear what that does. And it starts cycling through these different waveforms. So we start with a sort of a sine wave, and then we make our way over to like a sawtooth wave. And this is the best way to hear the difference that waveforms make to the same note. If you're after kind of a big, fat, and bright synth sound, maybe like for a lead or a drop or something like that, start with a sawtooth waveform. They're more harmonically rich, but if you're after more of like a soft, chill, like lo-fi key sound, start with something more rounded, like a sine wave or a rounded saw. They naturally have fewer harmonics, so they sound a bit darker and maybe more chill. Now let's change the length of the sound. And if you go down here below oscillator A, the oscillator A section, you'll see ENV1, meaning envelope 1, which is giving instructions to the oscillator about what to do. So if I play a note, the oscillator has the easiest job in the world right now because it's just blast the note continuously forever, nothing changing. But if, for example, we wanted more of a plucky sound, we need to drag the sustain level all the way down to 0, which means it's now heading towards silence. If you don't hold the note and just quickly press the key, it cuts off immediately. So adjust the release knob to change how long you want it to hold when you stop the note. Now, for the sake of simplicity, you can just copy and paste the decay value just so that it's sort of consistent for you. So now this is sounding nice and plucky. And you can slow the attack down if you want it to be a little lazier. Sort of like that. So now it's time to make the sound a bit more interesting by adding a filter. So head up to the top right corner section here called filter, and click the little gray button next to the word filter to activate it. You can also see a little blue button filled in that says A, and this just means that it's actively filtering oscillator A, which is the one that we're using. So just like we did with the waveform, click the words MG low 12 and it will turn into a drop-down menu with some different sort of filter groups. So let's select normal for now, and then we'll go to low 24, for example. If we go to the knob called cutoff just below the graph here, we can change how dark it sounds by moving the point where it begins filtering the harmonics. And you can actually use the carrots on the top right to cycle through different filters if you're just interested to see how they affect the sound, because they do make a huge difference. All right, we are getting somewhere here. As fun as it is to move the cutoff knob by hand while we play some notes, we're lazy, so we want to get Serum to do it for us. So we go back to the bottom left where we adjusted our envelope on envelope 1. We can see that there's also envelope 2 and envelope 3. These are like tabs in your browser, so you can just select envelope 2 by clicking on it, and then all we're gonna do is click and hold the tab where it says envelope 2 and drag it over to the cutoff knob here. And now we can change the behavior of the filter in the same way we did with the oscillator. So let's adjust the envelope 2 settings so you can hear what it's doing to the filter. So just start by turning the sustain down to 0. And we can hear it closing now. So now we're gonna move the decay to something similar to our original, like 400 milliseconds or so. Doesn't really have to be too accurate. And then in the same way that we did before, let's also move the release to a similar value as the decay so that it's just kind of consistent no matter how short of a note we play. And then let's also make the filter envelope a little bit lazier and slow the attack down. Kind of sounds like this. Now, one cool thing to do at this point is just to head up to where the cutoff knob is on the top right, and then move the knob around to set where the filter rests. Kind of like that. But if you look closely, there's also a tiny little knob right up here by the cutoff, just above it. And this sets how far the filter cutoff moves across the spectrum. It's the depth control for the envelope. So right now you can see that the depth is set at maximum, so it's really wide. It opens all the way up and then it fully returns to our cutoff point. So just drag that tiny knob to the left and then we can tighten up the filter envelope like so. So now once we've got the previous stuff dialed in, it's time to go back to the oscillator A section. And at the top left, you'll see a unison section with a number. So just drag that number up and let the magic begin. It's not really magic. It's just adding more copies of the oscillator that are slightly detuned, but it really moves to the next level once you do that. Check that out. It's quite possibly my favorite part of making patches is messing with that. And now just go up to the very top and click the Effects tab for the, you guessed it, effects. And the way that you activate any of these effects is just clicking on the little gray button to the left of the effects. And so like, let's add some, some delays, some reverb. And you can even drag them up and down to sort of change the order that they affect the signal. And you just have fun and start messing around. Now finally, and certainly most importantly, click the little save icon once you're happy with your sound to save your preset. And please do not type in just ASDF. Name it what it sounds like, I don't know, wow pluck 1 or something. Trust me on this. You're gonna wish that you named it something that made sense when you go back and look at all of your presets when you're in the middle of making music. We're gonna make some more patches and cement all this foundational stuff down the line, but this should be enough to get you started and making some cool sounds. And until next time, happy music making.